Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
My name is Debbie Horovich, and I'm your host tonight. Welcome to the Silver Linings Storycast. This is the new interview storytelling series that I'm launching this fall, 2016, and I'm super excited that you're here. I launched the Silver Linings Storybook earlier this year. It's my anthology book, like Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I wanted to launch this podcast to go along with it to give more opportunities for the amazing people that I know to share their stories and to promote, often for the first time, some of the worst and best experiences that we have. Ultimately, what we're doing through this is recognizing the truth in the saying, every storm cloud has a silver lining. And what we're doing through telling these silver lining stories is exploring that within our own lives and sharing it with the world so that we're able to really embrace the value in the silver linings in the experiences that we've been through in life. And I'm very glad and humbled and honored to be here today with my guest, Sasha Alexander. She helps petite women find creative workwear that fits through her online store and her clothing line, Dani Adeline. Am I saying that right?
Yes, correct.
Awesome. Welcome, Sasha. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask you, really, if you can, please tell us about Dani Adeline, your business, and tell us about who it is that you serve through this business.
Sure. So Dani Adeline is a petite clothing line for women. It's also eco-friendly and sources ethical and sustainable fabrics. I will be offering creative workwear attire that fits the petite frame, and petite is usually 5'4" and under. It's really hard to find clothing for petite bodies that actually fit well, and that's why I created this company. Like, I've been petite basically my whole life, my whole adult life, and it's hard especially when you're working in a specific environment and you're trying to find work clothes. It's really hard to find things that fit. And usually what I would have to do is I would have to hem my own pants, and then I would have the issue of trying to get blazers, but the arms of the blazers would be too long, and sometimes the blouses, the arms would be too long as well. But I didn't want to spend money on a tailor because the clothing, the type of clothing that I was buying, it wasn't investment worthy, so I didn't want to spend money on a tailor for a cheap piece of clothing.
Right.
So Dani Adeline is going to have quality, durable clothing that fits, and kind of removes that need of having a tailor, because when you don't have a tailor, the clothing, when you see it on a petite woman, it kind of looks sloppy, and you want to look professional, you want to look fashionable and trendy, and to do that, you need clothes that really, really fit really well. It doesn't matter if the trends are not in fashion. If something is very classic, it can last many seasons, and if it is tailored well, it can last a long, long time. It's an investment piece. So my story is that I'm almost like a serial entrepreneur, but my problem is I've kind of failed at all my past businesses, but my learnings from them have been just wonderful in a sense, because I feel like I'm going to be able to take everything that I've learned and put it into this clothing line, which makes me feel very optimistic that I will be finally successful with it, with a business.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like you're getting stronger every time?
Yes. I learn something new every time. And I've had 4 businesses in the past, and like, I think this fifth time is like probably going to be the time that I succeed.
What do you think it was about some of the earlier entrepreneurial attempts that you made that why they weren't successful at the time?
Sometimes there wasn't a need in the market for what I was doing, and sometimes the market was really oversaturated. Those are really the two main things. Mm-hmm. That was really preventing me from
Which one didn't have a need in the marketplace?
My first business was a production company. I have a degree in broadcasting. I wanted to be a screenwriter. Mm-hmm. And there's really not a need for that. It's bad to say, but like there's really no need for independence. And there's a lot of issues around diversity and everything in the entertainment industry for film and television, especially here in Canada. And the market is very small. So it was very hard to get people to hire me on as a writer or to get my films made, even though like I may have won awards or been featured at film festivals, which I was. Mm-hmm. It was very, very hard. So there really wasn't any need, and no one really wanted to pay for anything. Mm-hmm. Even if I was ghostwriting these scripts for them, no one really wanted to pay for that. So that was like a market that really had no need. And the film industry is probably the worst in Canada. So it's like TV is a little bit better, but for film there's really no work in it, and I didn't really understand that until like I had been trying for like 5 years of like having business and not making any money. Like I really, really, really wanted it so badly to make it happen, but it just didn't work out. So yeah.
That's why they say the creative brain drain happens.
Yeah, everyone kind of moves to the States, but it was really hard to get into the States too. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
definitely. Wow, it really. When you get into the detail of it, it makes a lot more sense, and I think a lot of people can really relate to that sort of struggle. Like. It's really a creative passion to be a screenwriter. It's something that I dreamt of and got as far as buying books on how to write screenplays. But my storytelling hasn't gotten into that medium yet. So what about what was some of the other businesses? You said that there was one, not that there wasn't a market.
Yeah, that was like a jewelry business. Like I had like an Etsy store, which is like an online marketplace for creative handmade goods and vintage items. So I had like jewelry, handmade jewelry that I was making. I couldn't sell anything because the market was so oversaturated, especially on Etsy. Even at craft shows and everything, like that's really what everyone is doing. It doesn't matter if your stuff looks different, which mine did, and it doesn't matter if you're using better materials. It was just way too much it was just too much people, too much businesses in that market, and it was just way too hard. It didn't really make any money.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, both of them, both the screenplay writing or screenwriting and the Etsy jewelry store, both to me sound like businesses that like you have to work at part-time, like you have to have another source of income while you pursue those as dreams, and then if they get to a point where they, would be like a full-time income, then you can consider quitting your job, sort of thing.
Yeah, I was working part-time during my production company phase. Yeah. But like at the 5-year mark, I was just very disappointed, and I just had to make a decision and say, well, if it's taken me 5 years and nothing has happened yet, like, yes, I won awards. Yes, I was featured at like 2 film festivals, one in Vancouver, one in Toronto. But, if I'm not getting work and nothing is happening, should I continue to be trying to pursue this?
Exactly. Well, putting in the effort. And what you really did was you changed directions. Winning awards, the accolades that you got from your production company are still very valuable for you, right? You can still take those forward. Do you leverage the fact that you are award-winning?
Yes, like on my LinkedIn, I have that I won a screenplay award. So I use that to say like I have really strong writing skills.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think so. I would be merchandising it all over the place. I've won no awards for screenplay writing. What other sort of skills or strengths do you think that you've realized through the struggles that you've had? Because, it does take a lot of courage to be in business for 5 years, in any business for 5 years, to make the decision to not be in that business anymore, and then to start another business instead of going and getting a job, which is really the secure, easy way to take time off. Like, you can start to take vacations and weekends again, and everything's going to be smooth as long as you've got an employer. But it takes a lot of courage. So, you must have really started to take stock of your skills and your talents at some point.
I did. I took like a couple of months to just think, and my best bet, I thought, was to go back to school. I didn't want to go back to school, but I did a postgrad in PR because I wanted to transition something with my writing skills, because I knew that I had really strong writing, and I knew that I was really good at branding and making up names and like words and everything. So I was just like, okay, why not try this PR thing? That brings me to my next business that I started, which was a PR company. But it's hard to get clients. PR is very expensive. Lots of people don't want to pay for it. Even if you are, doing it for a very low price, it's still like something not a lot of people even understand still. As you might know, so it was just like very hard. I was only in it for 6 months, and I was like, there's no way that I'm going to do this for 5 years and not have any money coming in again. Like that was my learning. I was just like, I'm not doing this again. It's not working. After 6 months, I was just like, okay, I'm still trying to pursue PR, but I'm doing just volunteer stuff, which will help me with Dani Adeline to promote it and everything, because I have those skills and I save some money on not hiring a PR company myself when I'm just starting out. So I did the right thing, I think, by going back to school. So those skills are really helping me right now. I'm going to trying to build an audience online through social media and everything. That will those skills will really help me with this new company. I never had those skills before, and it was very hard. I was trying, but I didn't know best practices or anything. So now I'm a bit more equipped. So I feel not very confident, but I feel more confident than what I would have been otherwise.
And also now you're able to do it for yourself instead of for someone else.
True, yes.
When you're doing it for someone else, there's an extra level of, I think, not just responsibility, but pride and insecurity that sometimes comes up when we're trying something new for clients. Because especially for myself, I came from social media. So also a very public people, your critics, you can have peers who really don't like you and who can publicly criticize the work that they can see you doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So it can be very much insecurity inducing to have your peers criticizing your work with your clients. And it's like, is there no privacy? No, there isn't. Not in this work.
Yeah.
So, but it is, I think it's a strong skill to have. And one of the common stories that I hear from people is that taking time to go back to school, it kind of gives you like a break in your thinking for 6 months or for 9 months. And I think it's just a healthy thing to do for our brains.
Yeah, I found that because I was working like in customer service while I was doing my production company, and I found that it was just brainless work. And I found that by going back to school, I just felt more, like my brain was getting more exercise, I would like to say.
Yeah. And I think there is less risk when you're in school versus the decisions that you have to make every day in business when you're literally singing for your supper. And going back to school, really, it does provide sort of a break from that level of responsibility and that level of stress on an ongoing basis. I went back to school. I'm using air quotes, which nobody can see, but back to school in the fall of 2014, just for a couple of months in a business plan writing program, which was, sort of school. There was class time for how to write the business plan and submit it. And it was good to have something very clear to focus on, because I find for myself, one of the biggest challenges in being self-employed is that it's not just the one skill that we bring to the table, the service or the product that we have for our clients. It's everything. We have to be an accountant. We have to be a customer service person. We have to be a tech person. We have to be like everything. We have to be everything. And for me, that's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
That was what I liked about being an employee, especially for ad agencies, was I only had to do one thing.
Yeah.
And I always had, you know what your salary is going to be, and you know what your work is going to be. It's a nice life.
Exactly. It's like more stable, and you know what's going on.
But it's also, for me, boring, and I can't stand it. And I feel caged, and I feel held back, and I feel like, oh my God, all of these people around me are so boring. I need to go speak on stage or travel the world or call up Richard Branson and get a meeting with him.
Yeah.
So tell me, Sasha, what is it for your future? What is it, the silver lining that you're working to develop now for your business, for our listeners to, take that sort of idea of what's the next step now? You've taken stock of your past, you're applying it towards your current business. Do you have a vision for a couple years into the future?
Yeah, I want to expand into the States and the UK. So I do, at first I kind of want an actual physical store here in Toronto, but I actually do want to expand into the UK and the States as well. But I will be selling online at first, so I will be trying to get those audiences to buy. But I really want to expand it and make it just a known brand for petite clothing that fits really well and is good quality, because right now, there's fast fashion and a lot of the clothes, they look trendy, but they don't last that long, and it's really annoying to keep buying clothes. And there's the issue of just a lot of waste and everything. The whole reason why this line is eco-friendly is because I saw this documentary. I I went to the premiere of this documentary called True Cost.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have heard of it and have seen it. I saw it last year. I talked to the director in person. He was very inspiring, and it was a very life-changing movie. Like, to see that some companies that say they're eco-friendly and sustainable, they actually weren't following their advice or doing best practices or anything, and to see the trickle-down effects of the current fashion industry on the economy and the people who are in developing countries. It was just very life-changing to see that. Like, I had no idea, like, about a bunch of the things that movie talked about.
Yeah, can you give a rundown for the listeners? Some people might not be aware of what's going on, like why, you know, when you walk into Joe Fresh, there's some new clothing every week.
Yeah, like places like Joe Fresh and like H&M, Zara, is called fast fashion. So they make their clothing overseas in like factories. And if anyone remembers, there's this really bad thing that happened in Bangladesh where a factory collapsed and killed like almost everyone working there. And Joe Fresh was one of the companies that had clothing being made there, like being manufactured there, but everyone keeps buying from them. I really don't know why, even though that happened. Like, they haven't really changed their practices at all. Like, they're trying different branding things to, like, I guess make people forget, but no, like that the documentary kind of talks about things like that, and how they're not paying people, not specifically Joe Fresh, but like the fast fashion companies are not paying, not even fast fashion companies, but even designer companies, which are like slow fashion, like that's like the opposite. They're not paying adequately, like, for these people in developing countries to even make a decent living for where they live. And like, even though their standards of living, like their cost of living is lower, like they're still not making enough to support their families. And it's really bad because like a lot of the people working these factories are women, and they're trying to support their families, and they're not making any money, and they're in dangerous environments. Mm-hmm. And yes, they're bringing employment to these areas, but a lot of the trickle-down effects are also pollution and exposure to like toxic things, and
so they're polluting another country.
Yeah, so like people are getting sick.
New countries.
Yeah, so like there's health effects, and there's basically it affects the standard of living for the people who are making our clothes. So that's basically what it is.
Tell me if I get this right from a pure consumer standpoint, because I'm not in the fashion industry in any way. I've seen the movie and understand, I think, what's happening. From a consumer standpoint, is really the solution has to be that we have to recognize that the fashion that we buy, you really, the old adage does come true with fashion. You really do get what you pay for. Mm-hmm. And when you invest in quality and research the companies properly, then you really do get clothing that lasts longer, that is manufactured better, and that has a much better social impact on the world, on everyone that touches it. Instead of having 100 people touching that T-shirt that you can only wash 3 times before you have to throw it away because it's falling apart, mm-hmm. Invest in a T-shirt that you're spending $35 on, which is a lot.
Mm-hmm. But you can't just like maybe just buy a T-shirt that is more expensive, because you have to, as you said, you have to research the company, because they could still be using the same manufacturing processes and just marking up their,
of course.
Charging more for their brand or their whatever.
Yeah, fast fashion is not always cheap fashion.
Yes.
Right. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the insights and for the conversation. Is there any final elements or points that you didn't touch on that you wanted to?
Well, I guess for closing, I can say that if you are starting a business, make sure there's a want and a need for what you're doing. Like, don't just assume there's a need. Don't think there's a need. Try to do maybe some focus groups or like some primary research on it. And like, if you're not the target customer, and just make sure that there's a good need for what you're doing.
I think that is fantastic advice. Thank you so much. Thank you for the insights and really for taking the time to speak with me today.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody in the audience. Again, my name is Debbie Horovich. This is the Silver Linings Storycast. If you're looking for Sasha Alexander, her website will be up later this fall, 2016. It is Dani-Adeline.com, Dani-Adeline.com. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.